Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, I want to let you guys know this is a basketball podcast. So on this podcast, I don't talk about just the NBA. I like to talk about high school, college, international basketball, and of course, the NBA itself. Today, currently, I want to let you guys know I'm recording this March 28th at about 2 p.m. It's a Friday. There's a couple big games later on tonight for March Madness. I believe it's the second half of the Sweet 16. I'm a Duke fan. If you guys didn't know that, you know now I'm a Duke fan. So last night, we took care of Arizona, destroyed them. We're going to play Alabama tomorrow. I think we'll beat Alabama too. But I'm not here to talk about that. We're back to the NBA today. So if this is your first time checking out my podcast, I want to let you guys know the things that I like to go over week in and week out. The first being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now in PJ's Echelon, essentially it's my power rankings. Understand that week in and week out, it's a progressive list because I'm a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. So that's how my power rankings is as well. I'll give you guys the full criteria on what I like to use when I do my power rankings. I'll give that to you shortly once I start that segment. Another segment that I like to go over is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, today in What's New, because it's going to be different than normal. So normally, I'll give you guys that. Normally, I usually like to go over statistically any event that may have happened over the last week or some type of history that was made, or I like to just come on here and rant. Today, I actually want to get us prepared for the NBA offseason for the teams that are not making the playoffs. So, for this week, next week, and the week after until the end of the season, we will actually be we'll be going over the lottery teams, kind of like similar to my season previews. I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to check out any of my season previews from over last summer, but it's going to be similar to that. So what I'll be doing is we'll go through all the lottery teams. Today, we're going to do Washington, Utah, and Charlotte. I'll be going over the team's contract situations, players in the draft that I think are good draft fits for the team. And then also we'll be checking in on some of the team's rookies and sophomores from this year and last year, okay? So you're not going to miss that. Like I said, we're going to go through all the lottery teams. Today, we're going to do those three. But normally, what's new is what I just told you guys just a second ago. Another segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm giving you guys games of some type of significance, games that I really enjoyed watching, or games that I'm looking forward to. So again, I'm not going to do all that this week. Strictly, we're just going to worry about games that I'm looking forward to because we are entering the home stretch of the NBA season. So I just want us to keep looking forward, So that's what's going to happen today on Games of the Week. But also that's the criteria that's the stuff I usually talk about in that segment. Lastly, the last segment that I like to go over is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, In the Lab, normally entails me talking about today's NBA rookies, international, high school, or college basketball. Today, we're going to check in on, because I don't know if you guys got to check last episode out, but last episode, I was giving you guys about 10 to 15 players during March Madness that I'll be keeping my eyes out for and just keep my eyes out, just watching them, like scouting them, trying to see how they do in the tournament. Today, we're going to be talking about the ones that got eliminated. So that's what it's going to consist of in today's episode. Other than that, again, like I said, remember this is being recorded Friday, March 28th, 2025. So we're going to just dive straight into the first segment. So my first segment on the chopping block is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, essentially what PJ Echelon is, it's just my power rankings. Understand it's a progressive list, and week in and week out, people move up and down on my list because I'm a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. I want to give you guys the criteria that I like to use on my power rankings. So one being team strength of schedule, statistically where the team sits, the team's record, and then I use the eye test. I don't really want to waste any more time for you guys. I just want to dive straight into it. My first team on my chopping block, this team is 61-12, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're fourth in offensive efficiency, they're first in defensive efficiency, and they're first in net rating. They have the 18th toughest remaining schedule. Notable games they got coming up, they got the Lakers twice. They average and they contest the second most shots per game at 43.5 shots. So, you can round it up or down, up to you how you want to go about it. They're first also in contested threes per game at 19. I really do like what they've done so far this year. To me, they've just been super steady all year long. I know they've received a lot of criticism and stuff about certain things about them, but I'm not in this video. I'm not going to go into that. When we get closer to the playoffs, we'll talk more deeply about these playoff teams. But also something I really want to point out to you guys, Shai's gonna have an opportunity to become, I believe I think there's only been 10 or 11 other players that have won an NBA title and MVP in the same year. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's 10 or 11 people. And like what I said, right now I'm gonna try and tell you guys some of the people that have done it. I know Michael Jordan's done it, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Bird, Shaq, Hakeem, Willis Reed, I think Tim Duncan's done it. And I'm missing 2 players. Dang. Like I said, this is off the dome. I don't have it in front of me. Did I say Hakeem Olajuwon? I don't know if I said Hakeem, but I'm Hakeem if I didn't say Hakeem. And I think that might be all. I think I might have named them all, low-key. I might have named them all. But anyways, yeah, Shai's got a chance to do that. I think that's a really dope thing. But yeah, I'm not going to go too crazy on them right now. OKC's number 1 for me this week. Number 2. This team is 54-19, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're 2nd in offensive efficiency, 5th in defensive efficiency, and 3rd in net rating. They got the 3rd easiest remaining schedule. Notable game, they play the Knicks one more time. New York needs to win that game, and hopefully they're healthy. They average the fewest turnovers per game right now at 12. They're 2nd in assist to turnover ratio at 2.2. And since January 1st, they're tied for the second best record in the NBA with Cleveland at 30-10, which is impressive to me because they've had all those injuries. Number 3, this team is 59-14, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland right now, they're 1st in offensive efficiency, they're 8th in defensive efficiency, and they're 2nd in net rating. They're 1st in pick and roll frequency at 22%, and they average about 25 possessions a game where that happens. They average the 5th most drives per game at 51.5 drives, and out of those drives, they're shooting 52% from the field, which is the 3rd best in the NBA when driving the ball. They're 1st in clutch time winning percentage at 74%. They're 23-8 in those games, and the clutch is defined as the last 5 minutes of the game with the game being within 5 points. They have the 8th toughest remaining schedule. Notable games, they have the Knicks twice and they play the Pacers twice. Number 4, this team is 46-28, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 3rd in offensive efficiency, 22nd in defensive efficiency, and 8th in net rating. They got the 12th toughest remaining schedule left. They play the Rockets, Grizzlies, and Minnesota. Personally, I got them at 4. Honestly, a lot of these other teams have had a lot of injuries, but I like how Denver has looked without their superstar. Because if you guys remember, earlier in the year, they looked horrible without Nikola Jokic. And this last time around, they looked a lot better. So for this week, I'm keeping them at 4. Obviously, I expect this to be different next week. But this week, I feel good keeping them at 4, even though they haven't won all their games. They just have looked a lot better than some of these other teams I'm going to name with their injuries. And also, they're 5-0 in overtime games, which is the best record amongst teams who plays at least 2 OT games. Number 5, this team is 44-29. And that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 14th in offensive efficiency, 14th in defensive efficiency, and 14th in net rating. They got the 3rd toughest remaining schedule left. They play the Thunder and the Rockets twice. They're 6th in clutch time winning percentage at 60%. They're 21-14 in those games. But they are 4-6 in games decided by 3 points or less. They're 3rd in the NBA in getting charge drawn and drawing charges. They're 3rd in charges drawn at about 1 a game, a little bit over 1 a game. And yeah, number 6 on my list, this team is 45-27. And that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 5th in offensive efficiency. They're 13th in defensive efficiency and 7th in net rating. They got the 7th toughest remaining schedule left. They play the Cavs twice, and they play Boston and the Bucks once apiece. They allow the 3rd best shooting percentage, the 3rd best 3-point shooting percentage by their opponents at 37.5%, but they do give up the 5th fewest attempts per game at 36. They're 7-2 in games decided by 3 points, but they are 11-18 in games, and they're 11-18 against teams above 500. They've been playing a lot better defense since the break. Prior to the break, they were for most of the year, they've been in the 20s in defensive rating. They're actually, since the break, they've been 14th in defensive rating, so they're playing a lot better defense. And obviously, they haven't had Brunson, but their defense has improved, so I feel good keeping them at 6 this week. Number 7, this team is 48-26, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 11th in offensive efficiency, 4th in defensive efficiency, and they are 5th in net rating. So they've been on a burner lately, but I didn't move them up too much. As you see, last week I had them at 10. Well, 2 weeks ago, because I didn't do my power rankings last week, I had them at 10th. I moved them up only to 7th because they haven't really played nobody. They've been beating up on a bunch of lottery teams. So that's not... And don't get me wrong, eye test wise, they deserve to move up. So that's also why I moved them up. But I want to see them against comp. And like I just told you guys, they're going to play, they got the 5th toughest remaining schedule in the NBA. They still got to play the Thunder, Denver, and the Lakers twice, and the Clippers. So they're going to have opportunities to move up in my power ranking. So I just gradually moved them up because they have looked impressive, but I just didn't want to overdo it, you know? And like I said, those teams in the front of them have all dealt with injuries. So I didn't want to completely penalize those other teams because of the injuries, you know, right out the gates. Usually what I like to do is if they have injuries, I like to give them a couple weeks to, you know, try to figure it out before I burn them and move them down. But also they're playing shutdown defense still. They're allowing the 2nd fewest assists per game at 23, and they're allowing the 5th worst field goal percentage shooting from their opponents at 45.5%. Number 8. This team is 43-30, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana right now, they're 8th in offensive efficiency, they're 17th in defensive efficiency, and they're 15th in net rating. They got the 10th toughest remaining schedule left. They play the Cavs twice. They're 4-2 in games decided by 3 points or less. They average the 3rd most points in the clutch at 11 per game. They're 5th. They averaged also the 5th best field goal percentage in the clutch at 49%. And they got the 8th best winning percentage in the clutch at 57.5%, and they're 19-14 in those games. Number 9, this team is 41-31, and that is the LA Clippers. LA right now, they're 18th in offensive efficiency, they're 3rd in defensive efficiency, and they're 9th in net rating. They got the 16th toughest remaining schedule. They play the Rockets, Warriors, and Cavs. They're 6th in offensive rating since the All-Star break. Kawhi's been hooping. He's been playing not out of his mind. I ain't gonna say that, but he's looking more so like himself, essentially. Right now, during the month of March, he's averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. He's shooting 52% from the field, 39 from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. They're 4-7 in games decided by 3 points or less, though. Number 10. This team is 44-29, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis right now, they're 6th in offensive efficiency, they're 11th in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. The injuries really killed this team, I felt, like all year long, and even really after the break. I feel bad. They obviously let go of Taylor Jenkins earlier today, which may or may not have been a surprise by some people. I was somebody that was kind of surprised by it, but my Memphis fans, maybe you guys can give me a better insight on how the locker room was responding to Jenkins. I don't know. They have the 9th toughest remaining schedule. They play the Lakers, Golden State, and Minnesota. They're still averaging the fewest pick and roll frequency per game at 9%. And they're still 1st in transition frequency at 24.5%. And the teams that I have on my bubble this week, I got right on the outside looking in, I got Detroit, Golden State, the Timberwolves, and the Bucks. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10 and then who do you have on your bubble. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, normally I would give you guys NBA news that happened over this last week, NBA statistical history that may have happened this last week, or it's me ranting. Today, like I told you guys earlier in the episode, I'm getting us ready for the offseason and for the NBA draft / lottery. We're going to be going over 3 teams. And it's very similar to my season previews. If you haven't checked out those episodes, I would highly recommend checking out over the last summer, I did season previews for all 30 teams. And I essentially broke down their draft capital, their free agents, their contract situation, and their rookies and the team like expectations. And yeah, I just went really deep into it last summer. But today on What's New, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to start top at the lottery and make our way down. But today we're going to do 3 teams, and next week we'll do another 3. So today we're going to talk about the Wizards, Utah, and Charlotte. I'm going to talk about players that I think are the draft fits for them, contract situation for the teams, and then rookie / sophomore reviews. Okay, so we're going to talk about the players that are on their team now. Anyways, we're going to get straight into it. I want you guys to keep in mind, too, I'm not going to use Cooper Flag for any of these 3 teams because to me, when I was doing this, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, that's kind of lazy. I feel like this is lazy of me to do that. So I'm excluding Cooper Flag from any of these 3 teams because I just don't think he'll fit with any of these teams, you know? So I don't want to do that. So I'm not using him. So keep that in mind. So the first team we're going to talk about them is the Washington Wizards. So the Wizards, to me, some good draft fits, in my opinion, would be Ace Bailey. This team needs offense. I think Ace Bailey would be great next to Sarr. Another player would be Dylan Harper. And I said Dylan Harper, and I at first I didn't have Dylan Harper. At first I just had Ace Bailey on here. But I put Dylan Harper on here because it all depends on how Washington's front office views Bud Carrington. That's what it's going to come down to. So I don't know, my Washington fans, how you guys feel about Bud. I'm getting ready to talk about him in a little bit. I don't know what I feel about him, but I put Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper. I think would be ideal fits for the Washington Wizards. Contract situation: Rashawn Holmes, Justin Champagnie, Kobe Jones, Anthony Gill. They all are on non-guaranteed contracts for next year. Brogdon's a free agent. Chris Middleton got a player option for $34 million. So now we'll talk about the rookies and sophomores. Okay. Alex Sarr, to me, has for sure shown flashes of being a solid center. I really don't like him shooting as many threes as he be taking a game. I don't like it. His form to me is solid. Free throw percentage is a little shaky. He shoots about 64% on the year. For the month of March, he's at about 69%, which is a little bit better. Something to monitor, but I really do love his motor, and I do think he's going to be a solid defender for them. Keyshawn George, to me, he's a 3-and-D player. And he may have a higher upside because he does have some playmaking ability, in my opinion. I really like his motor. I like his physicality he plays with. I think he is going to be a starter for years to come. Bud Carrington, like I just kind of very, very, very little just talked about him with you guys. I love his midi game. I like his size. I like his feel. He plays a lot more mature. Than his age would tell. He has a mature game, in my opinion. I guess it's just figuring out if he's really going to be the player that really runs this offense full time, or would he really excel at just being a 6-man guard off the bench for this team? Right now, that's my dilemma within myself, is trying to understand and figure out, do I think long term, and that's what you got to ask yourself, long term, do you think Bud Carrington will be better, have a better upside or better fit this team than what a Dylan Harper would be? I don't know. That's something the front office got to figure out. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think personally I probably would, if I had a chance to get Harper, I would take Harper. But, my Washington fans, you guys can kind of speak to that a little bit more than I can. A last player that I want to talk about is A.J. Johnson. They got him in a trade. People forget he was a very highly rated 4-star recruit coming out. He just decided to go play overseas. I think he played in Australia, if I remember correctly. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he played in Australia. He's got some upside as well. I really love his athleticism. I like his nice touch. Obviously, he's somebody you got to keep your eyes out on, I think, next year when he's officially ingratiated in the system. And he's super young, so that's somebody to keep your eyes out for. I like his tools. Excuse me. I like his tools a lot. Next team is Utah. Draft fit for Utah to me is Dylan Harper or my boy Yakichonis. Contract situation: John Collins has a player option for $26.5 million. Colin Sexton is extension eligible. He only got 1 year left on his deal, so he's extension eligible this summer. I do anticipate, I'm assuming they will get off of Colin Sexton, maybe trade him, maybe. We'll see what happens. Walker Kessler is extension eligible. Kenyon Martin Jr., Johnny Uzang, and Jaden Springer are all on non-guaranteed contracts for next year. I will talk about the rookies and sophomores. Filipowski, to me, I think could be a quality backup big for Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Bryce Santabon, I've been saying it for a while now. I think he has 6th man of the year written all over him at some point. Cody Williams, I like his versatility, but I think he still needs to get acclimated to the NBA, so we'll see what happens there with him. Taylor Hendricks got injured earlier in the year. I was expecting him to have a big year. I think he's a prototypical 4 in today's NBA. Potentially, he's going to be able to run some 5 when they want to go small. I really like him. I have really high. I'm very high on Taylor Hendricks. I was high on him when he got drafted. I really like Taylor Hendricks a lot. And my guy Keontae George, I still have faith in him. I love his shooting stroke. I love the fluidity on his jump shot. I don't know if it's him going in and out the lineup. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if he's just not getting it necessarily. But excuse my French. I mess with Keontae George. That's one of my favorite young two guards. I'm not selling my stock on him yet. I think next year he could have a big year. He's marginally improved this year, but I'm not selling my stock on him. And lastly is Isaiah Colliner. I really like his playmaking. But again, it's the same question I have with Bud. Is Colliner the player that you want running your offense full time for the next, 6-7 years? That's something the front office has to answer. But that's also, like I said, why I said Dylan Harper or Yakachonis, because I think those players essentially could run the offense and be better long-term prospects than Isaiah Colliner. I think Colliner may just be better off coming off the bench. But who knows? Because he was the number 1 rated point guard coming out. He just had a bad rap at USC, and he dealt with injury. Last team is the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte, draft fits in my opinions for them is VJ Edgecombs. My boy Malawach. I said Malawach because do they decide to trade Mark Williams? That still, I think, could still be a possibility, and they draft Malawach. I really do like VJ Edgecombs for them a lot, though. I'm not going to go into too many details on that. Contract situation, Seth Curry and Taj Gibson are both free agents. Trey Mann is a restricted free agent. Josh Okogie's a non-guaranteed contract. Nurkic, Grant Williams, and Josh Green are all extension eligible. Brandon Miller, to me, now we'll talk about the rookie sophomores. Tajani Solano, Tajane, I think not Tajani. His name's not Tajani. It's Tajane. I think Tajan, whatever his name is. Solano. For me, I think the jury's still out for him. I said it when he got drafted. I don't like the form on his jump shot at all. I think his form is really funky. But can he be a serviceable 3-and-D, power forward coming off the bench? Probably. I don't know if long-term he'll start. We'll have to see how that goes and what this team really wants to do and what they decide to do with LaMelo this summer. But let's talk about Brandon Miller, because obviously this was Brandon Miller's second year. To me, he looked a lot more comfortable this year. I really, really hate how he took so many threes this year. I believe he averaged about 11 threes per game. I don't have it in front of me. I really didn't like that as much at all. But I expect him to have a solid year next year. But I just hope he limits the threes, man. I don't like Brandon Miller taking a bunch of threes. You guys let me know. I'm sorry again that this was all so fast. Like I said, I have a lot more to say about these teams, but obviously I'm trying to keep my episodes between 25 to 35 minutes. I'm not trying to take up a bunch of you guys' time. So if you guys want to talk more about these teams, down in the comment section below, let me know. Like I said, we can talk more about it. I have a lot more to say. But again, I'm just trying to make these episodes not too long for you guys. So my next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, normally I'm giving you guys games that I enjoyed watching, games of some type of significance, or games that I'm looking forward to. This week, again, like I said, I'm trying to get us prepared for the playoffs, for the back end of the year. So we're just going to focus on games I'm looking forward to this upcoming week, okay? So first, starting off Saturday, tomorrow, we got the Thunder versus the Pacers that I'm looking forward to. Sunday, we got about 3 different games. We got the Clippers versus the Cavs, Pistons versus the Wolves, Rockets versus the Suns. Monday, we get the Rockets versus the Lakers, which will be a second night of a back-to-back for the Rockets. We got Tuesday, we got Timberwolves Nuggets. Tuesday, also, we got Warriors Grizzlies. Wednesday, we got Pistons Thunder. And Wednesday, we got Cavs Knicks. We'll see. Hopefully, Jalen Brunson is back by that time. And then last game next week that I'm looking forward to, or this upcoming week I'm looking forward to, is the Warriors and the Lakers. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what games are you guys looking forward to this week. Because obviously, there's still a lot to be figured out seeding-wise in the NBA, which I'm excited for. So I think we've got some really good games coming up, some really high-level games actually coming up. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, normally in the lab, I will sit here and talk about high school, college, or international, or today's NBA rookies. Today's episode, we're going to check in on about 5 or 6 of the players that I said I was going to be keeping my eyes out for during the college basketball tournament, March Madness tournament. We're going to check in on the people that got eliminated, and I just want to give you guys statistically what they ended up doing during the tournament. And just my very, very extremely brief opinion, because obviously when the NBA draft comes, we'll talk more about some of these players. All right, so let's just get straight into it. I'm not going to waste any more time. So first, I'm going to give you guys, we're going to check in on Neek Clifford. He's a 6'5", fifth-year senior. Neek's about, I would say he's a small forward / shooting guard. He plays for Colorado State. During those games, during the NCAA tournament, he averaged 17.5 points, 6 assists, 7.5 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, 1.5 turnovers, 3 personal fouls. He shot 33% from the field. He shot 0% from 3. He was on 4.5 attempts. He shot 83% from the free throw line, though, on 9 attempts. Neek, I really like Neek. I think Neek's a first round. I think he's a first rounder. Is he a lottery pick? No. I would say no. I don't think he's a lottery pick. But do I think you could get him in the late teens, early 20s and get a very solid player? Yes. Yes, I do. Another player I want to talk about is Will Riley, 6'8", freshman, Illinois. He averaged 13.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1 block, 2.5 turnovers, 2 personal fouls, 47% from the field, 43% from 3 on 3.5 attempts, 86% from the free throw line on 3.5 attempts. Will Riley, to me, is a first rounder as well. I don't think he's a lottery pick either. I really like his skill. To me, he's like a poor man's version of Michael Porter Jr., which I don't think is a bad comp. I think it's a very respectable comp. He really turned on, like really got his footing the latter half of this season really, really well. I like Will Riley. I think he's a first rounder as well. Is he a lottery pick? No. I'm going to say no. I think, again, he's another guy you can get in the teens to 20s. You know, I think you get really good value out of Will Riley there. Next player is PJ Haggerty. 6'3", sophomore, Memphis. I think he's a second rounder, maybe late first rounder. But during the tournament, he averaged 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 personal fouls, 4 turnovers, 30% field goal percentage, 12.5% on threes on 8 attempts, 75 from the free throw line on 4 attempts. Mind you guys, he only played 1 game. He only played 1 game, but yeah, I think he could be somebody that you get like in the early second round or at the very, very end of the first, maybe. Probably second round, though. Another player is Bennett Sturtz, 6'4" shooting guard. He's a freshman at Drake, but really he's a junior because this is, yeah. Anyways, he was a freshman at Drake. He actually ended up committing to Iowa, so I'm assuming, I can't remember if he put his name in the draft as well and committed to Iowa or just did commit to Iowa. But either way, I think Bennett Sturtz he's a first round pick. Again, probably that right after the lottery to the end of the first round, I think is his range as well. We'll see if he ends up staying in the lottery or stay in the draft or not. I can't remember if he declared for the draft and committed to Iowa. I know for sure he committed to Iowa though. But anyways, during the tournament, he averaged 21 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, a half a steal, 2 personal fouls, 2.5 turnovers. He shot 57% from the field, 55.5% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. He shot 75% from the free throw line. Bennett Sturtz, he's the real deal. He was one of the players I told you guys I was going to keep my eyes out for. All these guys actually were people that I just said I was going to be watching closely during the tournament. Last person that I want to talk about is Igor Demon. He's a 6'9" freshman out of BYU. He averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 2 turnovers. He shot 43% from the field, 29% from 3 on 7 attempts, 100% from the free throw line on 2 attempts. I think Demon is polarizing. He's a very polarizing player, and if you've been keeping up with my pod, you've heard what I have to say about him. If you haven't, I'm going to say it again. I think he's the best passer in this draft. He's the best passer in my opinion. I think him and Yakachonis are really, really great passers. Really out of the pick and roll. He has great size. His jumper doesn't look broken to me. Like, it doesn't look that bad, but his free throw percentage and his 3-point percentage tells us it's bad, you know? So Demon he has great size. I mean, Demon is somebody that I can see somebody late in the lottery taking him, or him falling in the latter half of the teens going into the 20s is where I got him slotted at. You know, I could see somebody at let's say 13. I would say his range is from 13 to 30 would be his range in my opinion. Some people have him higher up on their draft boards, but that's where he's kind of out on mine. But yeah, so that's all. Those are all the players that's been eliminated thus far. Obviously, we still got a couple more players that we got to check on, but they're still in the tournament. So since they're still in the tournament, we're not going to bother talking about them today. As teams get eliminated, we'll check in on these players. But yeah, that's the end of my podcast. I really want to thank you guys for really supporting me. It's been really fun talking about basketball with a lot of you guys on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. It's been really fun, you know. This is something that like I said, I really enjoyed doing, and we're gonna have fun, bro. Like as the season goes on, I got some stuff really good in the pipeline that I plan to make announcements to you guys after the NBA season's over, but I got something boiling, you know. I want to take this podcast to the next level, and I can't do it without you guys' help and without everybody else in my community, you know, and in my village. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day for watching my podcast, and PJ is out.